Hi, this is Jeff with the INTJ equation. I just needed to record an intro because I was having some feedback in my microphone. Just wanted to cut to the interview where I interview somebody who goes by D. She's a female INTJ who chooses to remain anonymous due to probably SC inferior and any nemesis. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. How is it like being an INTJ female? Like pretty much the rarest of the rare.
Well, first of all, just in case one slips out, am I allowed to curse on this or no?
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Oh, okay, it's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. No, it can actually be difficult because just by the very fact that as a female, I'm extremely logical. I come off as more, I guess, I hate to use the term masculine because I don't believe that it's just masculine traits. I'm assertive, I'm confident, and I'm extremely knowledgeable in the areas that I'm knowledgeable in. So, what that does is it creates sort of an issue where I'm not taken seriously for my knowledge because, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm also slightly attractive. So that's where that falls in.
Okay, yeah, that is like a big thing. Like, there's a theory between like Linda Bear's interaction style, like direct and informative, and they say the direct types, which INTJs are quite direct, they usually tend to be more masculine. So that's interesting that you bring that up. So
Yeah, I don't like to use masculine or feminine because what it does is that it sort of takes away those attributes from belonging to those quote unquote genders. You know what I mean? Like it's like saying an ENFP male is more feminine. It's not. You're just more in tune with that particular aspect of your nature. So, however, most people that I deal with, when I deal with them, they just don't get it.
yeah, I get it. It's kind of like a yin and yang sort of thing. It could be dark, light, soft, hard, fire, water. It's just a balance, really.
Yeah. For a good portion of my life, I was in a very male dominated field. Um, so it kind of got funny. It was just funny because when I would know something and it would be proven correct, I would get looked at like I had five heads. Like, how did she even know that? But it's like, you know me. You people know me. How do you not know that I would know this? That's really like the crux of the INTJ female experience, is that people are just like, but how did you know that? Because I know. How long have you known me for? That's why I know.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little worse for females, but that's just like an INTJ thing altogether. I think like nobody ever listens to what I have to say. Then when it comes true, everyone's like, how did you know that? It's just we just know it, and it's just part of our nature, just intrinsic with us. It's kind of weird.
Basically, how I sort of liken it is that, like R and I, our knee, as I like to call it, it's like having a computer running underneath the hood all the time, and it's just all the time picking up every little nuance, every little speck of dust, every little, you know what I mean? Like, you notice everything, even though you don't know that you're noticing everything. It's all under the hood. Like, I'm sure you get this, where like in your house, you know where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone touches something, you're like, it throws you because you're like, but that was right there. Why isn't it there now?
Yeah, definitely. Like that's something that it is. It's just like a ongoing processing. Like you're just like you said, subconsciously just taking in information, and it might not seem relevant, but like 10 years down the road, you might have this epiphany that just comes in your head, and something just clicks all of a sudden. It's just kind of how it works. It's really a mysterious
Yeah,
sort of thing.
you're just a consistent gatherer of information, whether it's sensory, whether it's knowledge. It's just always occurring. So.
Yeah, that's kind of like why we're so quiet, just because we're always observing. We just observe, and when people are loud or we're talking, it just kind of distracts us from that. So it's kind of like in our own natural habitat, it's just observing things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you have like a guiding light? Does your intuition, how does it guide you? Is it like a voice for you? Do you get like flashes or visions? How does that work for you exactly?
Oh, I get some cool stuff going on. Let's see. Sometimes I'll get flashes of a picture, like a mental picture of something. Sometimes I will just kind of, let's see. I want to say almost like feel the air.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's a good example. If my husband and I are driving, and I'll kind of get like this, it's almost like I can sense it. I'll sort of like throw one of my hands up, like in front of me, and I'll be like, "There's a cop coming up soon, and he's gonna be, speed checking you." And sure enough, 9 times out of 10, I'm right.
Yeah, that's something else to do. I have a habit of speeding. We're triple movement. We just like to go, go, go. So I always sense when there's a cop coming up. It's just really odd.
I think we just sort of feel the energy. Like we just feel the waves in the air. However the radar works, it pings. Like you just kind of get like a little ping.
Yeah.
You don't hear a ping, but you just get it and you're like, "Oh, wait, that means I should notice something. What is the thing I need to notice?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like our spidey sense is tingling pretty much.
Right. So that male dominated field that I told you about was firefighting.
Oh, okay.
Which is extremely unusual for an INTJ, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think INTJs are known to be first responders. I worked in corrections for 5 years, and I kind of just knew what to find. But we do have our SE that can be really, our SE inferior, but that can actually be very prevalent in our lives if we exercise it. So that's a good way to exercise your SEs, being a first responder and having like a hands-on dangerous job like that. How long did you do that?
Let's see. 15 years.
15 years. Wow.
So I'll give you a little for instance on how this works. So we're on a call. Homeowner says smell of something electrical burning in their home. We get there. A bunch of the guys are crawling through the place. They have their whatchamacallit, their thermal imaging cameras, like looking at stuff. And so I come in and I look up and I see the guy's light that he has in his little front room that he's got there. And I see that one of the light bulbs is out. And I noticed the type of light bulb. So I said to him, excuse me, how long has that light been out? He's like, oh, I don't know. I didn't notice it. I hand screwed it, sniffed it, had him sniff it. I said, is this what you smell? And he's like, yeah, that is what I smell. I said, all right, you see this light bulb? When they blow out, they let off an odor that smells like bad wiring. Meanwhile, the chief's looking at me like, oh my God, how did she even know that? Welcome to INTJ land.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, I don't know, we just kind of get frowned upon with our ideas, but when our ideas come right, everyone's kind of like, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Well, how are your senses? Because my 5 senses are incredibly strong.
I've definitely noticed as I age, I become more and more sensitive to stimuli, like loud music. I can't tolerate crowds. I have a hard time tolerating. I actually have 20/15 vision, but I have glasses that correct it. So my hearing's been kind of shot because of like shooting guns and going to concerts and stuff when I was younger. But I definitely can't really do that sort of thing anymore. But yeah.
I was just curious.
So yours are pretty keen?
Very keen.
Yeah. I think we just natural observers in that sense, but it's kind of weird because we don't typically live in the present moment. I imagine with firefighting, that just really puts you in the present moment, which is really good exercise, I think, for INTJs.
Well, what it also does is that depending on the situation, you have to use your senses.
He's not here, bud.
Because you have to listen for a fire. You have to listen and look and observe, and a lot of it is, if you're actually in a fire, it's dark and it's smoky and you can't see anything. So you need to be able to navigate really in the dark, blind. You need to know where you are. You have to be oriented. So there's a lot that goes on with that. It's almost like let's see, it's almost like having sonar, really.
Yeah, I mean, when I was working in
If that makes
prisons,
sense.
yeah, absolutely. When I was working in prisons, I could just step into the pod and just feel something was off. Like if there was some, like animosity going on between some inmates or something like that, I could just tell when something was off.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of weird because we have a hard time reading people, but we can read situations. It's kind of an interesting dynamic there.
We are very fast problem solvers, especially if you're in a situation where you can kind of anticipate what all of the problems potentially could be. It's just even faster. We just catalog problem solving skills.
Yeah, I think that's where our TE definitely comes in handy. We just kind of like dismiss what's good and what's bad at just like rapid speed.
Right. Like if like for example, I'll give you a neat little example. So when COVID started, or actually even before it really started, and we first got word that Italy was having, and it was overseas, right, before it really even got here.
Mm-hmm.
I said to my husband, I was like, listen, I have this feeling that this is going to be a thing. And this was in like February. And I said, we need to go to the store. We need to stock up. We need to have a supply in, because I just feel like something like this is going to be serious. And sure enough. But the second time we went was after everything. And, he went into the store. I did not go into the store. I stayed in the car and I was just observing. So what I was looking for were people coming out of the store, how many bags they had, what they were wearing, and how they were acting and what they were doing. Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to sort of assess the supply chain, because that's usually one of the first things that breaks down in any sort of, national emergency, is if the supply chain, how's the food, like are things still getting through, whatever. So that's kind of how my brain works. So watching the stuff, I start, watching the people, like, all right, they've got bags, that's good. Kind of started to think about other locations, and like mentally I kind of had to like shut that pathway down and say, all right, that's something we can think about at another time. Let's just focus on what's going on here now, like read the room here now, if that makes sense. Like, do you find that you can do that? If you tend to start to maybe go a little further than you need to go, you can kind of mentally draw yourself back and refocus.
Yeah, I think I can. Actually, with COVID, I thought it was just going to be one of those cry wolf sort of things. Seems like every year there's like this virus that breaks out, and they say, "Oh, it's going to be a worldwide thing," but it never happens. But this time something happened,
Mm-hmm.
so that one actually took me by surprise. Actually,
Not it. Not me.
well, I'm glad you had the foresight for that. Right. So you said you had some struggles, like being more articulate than most people and not being taken seriously because you're female. What other kind of struggles have you had growing up?
Uh, let's see. Well, I didn't have the easiest of childhood experiences. I was adopted as a baby, and when I was 2, my adopted mother died.
Oh man.
So the father that I had remarried his mistress. He married his mistress. So I basically had an evil stepmother growing up. that makes sense. So I did not grow up in an ideal situation. It made me even more hypervigilant than a normal INTJ would be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I had a not so good upbringing myself, and I definitely worked with kids that were, NDCS care, CPS, whatever you want to call them, and were undergoing adoption or just were in a system until they aged out. So it's really a sad situation. I'm sorry to hear that for you.
Yeah, well, things happen, right?
Yeah, things happen for a reason, I guess.
Just growing up, things that I wanted to do, the stepmother would consider not, you're not being female enough, why can't you be like everyone else? That was a common thing that I heard. Why can't you be like everyone else? Because I'm not. That was, my answer. Like, I would just get in trouble just for being myself. I was athletic as a child. I wanted to play baseball. I used to pitch, and then it was like I got to a certain age and I wasn't allowed to do that anymore, because girls don't play with boys. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, a lot of ignorant social genders going on there, huh?
Pretty much.
What about you?
So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It sounds like you're able to fit in as a kid then, like you had friends, you were able to play baseball with kids, they didn't alienate you or anything?
No, I actually had a pretty diverse group. Not group, but let's just say I was like kind of friends with everybody as far as like acquaintances. I had a lot of different groups of friends, but my main, I guess, clique that I was in was definitely a punk rock clique. I was kind of a punk in high school, so.
Did you ever play any bands, play any instruments or anything like that?
Yes, I play bass guitar.
Bass. Yeah, a lot of women gravitate to bass. I always see that. Not that it's a bad thing or anything.
Nope.
So you talked a little bit about your mom and your stepmom and your adopted dad. How have like relationships been through your life? I know you said you have an ESTP husband, right?
Yes.
How's that going? How'd you guys meet?
Firefighting.
Firefighting. That makes sense.
Where else are you going to find an ESTP? Yeah, so relationships, let's see. To be perfectly honest, in my past, I had a very, I guess, masculine attitude towards it. If I saw something I wanted, I went and I got it.
Yeah, it's kind of the INTJ way, ideally.
And there were times when there were people that I was interested in where it wasn't as reciprocal as I would have liked. We fall prey to people abusing our good nature. So let's see. Yeah, younger I was definitely more active than I am these days. Let's see, at least until I hit my late 20s, and then I kind of settled down a bit. Before my husband, I was with someone for almost 15 years, 14 years, and it wasn't a great relationship. But unfortunately, I was financially entangled with this individual. So when I did break it off, I had to walk away from everything.
Okay.
And then eventually ended up with my husband, and things are fine. Things are good.
That's good. I want to step back a little bit. You said that people take advantage of our good nature. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes. So I think INTJs get this sort of stigma that we're cold robots. No, we're not. We're not cold robots. We pick and choose when we want to feel those emotions. And generally, we wait to feel them until like when we're alone. That's when we process our emotions. However, if there are people in your life that you're close to, and you INTJ, or at least for me, I always want to improve upon the relationship. Like, to me, there's no problem that can't be solved with a conversation and understanding. So you can have these conversations with people. You can tell them how you feel. You can choose to be open and honest about it, which is usually what I have done. And of course, there will be people that will take advantage of your honesty. You'll tell them how you feel about them, and then they'll turn around and use that against you.
Yeah, that's kind of like why we keep our own emotions kind of at bay, because we don't want to be exploited by people. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right. But then there's also like, I think that our type does really well in crisis situations where you can't think, you know what I mean? Like, to respond emotionally isn't going to solve the problem. So we're able to shut that down and just go pure mental logic, problem solving, get it done.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. I think when we see people base decisions off emotions, it kind of like, it infuriates me at times. I know that's just how some people operate, but it's like, you don't want to accept the truth, or you don't want to live the truth. You just kind of want to feel like your own feelings and don't want to accept it.
Right. I think that one of the reasons why our type would be misunderstood is because, like, we get it. We get that other people have emotions. We just don't understand their reasoning behind having the particular emotions that they're having, especially if it's illogical.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I've been dating this INFJ girl, and we're just kind of like, the way we approach things is different, but it's kind of interesting having like the NI in common.
Right.
Like,
right. So you just kind of feel like, oh, all right, this person kind of gets me, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need a little bit of a balance with that. Like, we have some things in common, and you have some things that are, totally different. Like, she has like FE, mother, father, the secondary function in MBTI, and it's just like something that we're totally devoid of, more or less. And I'm sure as a female, you're conditioned to be more emotional, and like, like, why aren't you more emotional and things like that, right?
Well, what I get is that people assume I'm being emotional when I'm actually not. Does that make sense? So if I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm talking about something that I'm passionate about, I'll tend to talk faster. So it gets taken like, let's see.
Like, you're getting worked up about it?
Yeah, like people read me as being angry, and it's like, no, I'm not angry. I'm just seriously talking about something that we're talking about. So, like, did you just hear my voice there? That's the tone that I normally use in that type of a situation. And for some reason, other people pick it up as like I'm being angry or aggressive about it. And it's like, no, actually, not really. I'm just telling you what's on my mind.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I have to kind of watch the tone of my voice and everything like that, or people get kind of scared. I imagine people get less scared of you being a female, but I guess you're really intimidating as an INTJ
no,
male.
That's actually not true.
No?
I have frightened men.
Really?
You'd be surprised. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll give you a good for instance. So during COVID, during the main COVID, when everybody was just like, stay away from me, like, don't breathe on my grandma, whatever. My husband, we had just gotten done coming back from a walk, right? And we get back to the house, and one of his friends decides to come over to pick up, I don't know, some bullshit window or something that he had in his shed.
Mm-hmm.
So I go outside, and the two of them are in the hot shed in like 90-degree weather, like standing next to each other. And meanwhile, this guy that's here, his wife works in an infectious disease department in a hospital, right?
Uh-huh.
Section in a hospital. So I go outside. I call the two of them out of that shed, and I am super pissed, right? Because you're literally like, why are you here? And you're endangering my husband, and you're endangering me right now. And just he, like, the other guy, he's like trying, oh well, I'm being safe. No, you're not being safe right now. No, you are not. And when I tell you that I gave him such a look, like the INTJ death stare, he literally jumped in his clothes. He was like, whoa! Couldn't get him out of my yard fast enough because I just shot him this look like, oh no. Like, no, you're endangering everything that I care about right now, so you need to leave.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay. Well, that's something you could definitely use to your advantage then. I want to go back to the NI a little bit. I think it was you that I was talking to on our Discord server about some like revelations you had before danger. Like, didn't you say something like you guys were on the road and you swerved and you said something like,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, sometimes I just get like this intuition that something's off. And yeah, I remember that one specifically because it was just so odd that I was like, wow, if I had stayed in that lane, I'd be friggin' dead right now. Yeah, just driving on the highway, and it was like, I just had this thought, like, I was in the middle lane. I'm like, I should change lanes. And I did. I changed into the right lane.
mm-hmm.
And sure enough, behind me comes this van shooting up the middle lane. And as he passes me, a ladder comes off off the top of his van, lands on the roadway, and goes like right down the highway. And I was like, oh my god, if I'd been there, that would have been in my windshield. So
Yeah. It's kind of like I had an instance I was explaining to you on Discord too. Like I was just driving to the gym one day and I had this really strong flash of vision in my head, like that I was getting jumped by the gym at the gym. So I trusted my gut, my intuition, and didn't go. And the next day I went normal and I saw the same guys that jumped me at the gym, but I've never seen them previously before. So it's a really odd phenomenon.
Yeah, sometimes you just get messages in the wild,
Yeah. It's really odd. And you said something about saving a kid too with your visions, right?
Yeah. This was let's see, I was at my job, and I had just had it. Like, when I tell you that I was just not, and at the time I was not in a good place, just because the place that I was working at was terrible. There was stuff going on in the environment there that was making me very sick, that they were refusing to address. And I had literally just like had enough. I was like at the end of my rope there, and I had to do a task, or I didn't actually have to do a task. I was kind of like hiding in the back, kind of pretending to do a task. And all of a sudden, because I was just over it, and in my head, it was like clear as day. It was like, come on, go out there, just put this thing out, and then you can call it a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I go out, and I go to do the thing, and I'm out there, and in my peripheral vision, I see this woman, and she's got a stroller, and I see her lean down towards the stroller and start smacking the kid's face in there, and the kid's not responding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh shit. So I'm in motion, and I met her at like the aisle, and she had picked him up and was just holding him out to me like, oh my God, do something. And I just grabbed him, flipped this kid upside down, squeezed his stomach, and cleared the contents of what was choking him to death.
So he was like an infant or like a toddler, and he had like choking on something, or was it?
He was it was a toddler, had to be about maybe 18 months old.
Okay.
And yeah, he was cyanotic. He was blue.
Oh wow.
And not responsive when she handed him to me.
Wow. Glad you're at the right place at the right time then.
Yeah. So yeah, if I had not listened to that inner voice saying, come on, just go out there, go do it, I wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that kid would have made it. So I don't know like what angel was watching over that kid that day, but they contacted me, and it was like it was like one of those things, and nobody else like reacted in the place. That was the crazy part. Like nobody reacted. It was just like another day.
Yeah, I mean,
meanwhile, this kid, oh, the contents of his stomach were all over the floor, basically, and it was like pea soup and sour candies.
like a scene out of The Exorcist, huh?
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, well, nobody's head was spinning.
Yeah, I bet the mom's was in a sense.
She was very happy that her child was breathing.
Yeah, I bet that's a pretty amazing story there. How would you have any theories like how NI works, what it is, like how it's stronger in some people than it is others?
I just feel like, as I said before, it's like a computer program that's consistently running in the background, and it never shuts off, and it is just sucking up all of the information that it can. Temperature, which direction the wind is blowing. Like seriously, like everybody picks this stuff up. I just think that we're more able to access it than anyone else.
Do you think it's like divine or metaphysical in nature, or do you think it's just something that's, I don't know, like human?
I think it's human and scientific in that I guess maybe the only thing I can sort of liken it to would be maybe a troop of primates and their positions in the troop. You know what I mean? Because not everybody can be a leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can be a follower. Not everybody can be a musician. Not everybody can pick up an instrument and try to do something with it, but not everybody's going to be like Eddie Van Halen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to be Mozart on a piano. So there's a lot to it, and I just think that if there were more of us, I just feel like it would be like too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something that's been discussed is like, why is there more of certain types than others? I think it's just kind of like balance. Like, we're just so future forward thinking, and we think abstractly, we think, about possibilities, and we're just kind of not grounded at times. And we kind of have to have those people there to kind of keep things the same and kind of keep us in check. But we kind of got to push their buttons. And I think that's kind of like why we have FE Trickster and SI Demon, where we just kind of go against the grain. We kind of go against society, and we kind of make these new, troops for the future. But someone's got to check us too, in a sense. And that's why we're just so
Sure.
marginally small compared to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if we go unchecked, we could fall into arrogance. We could fall into, complete isolated hermit land. So
Yeah, I definitely think INTJs are definitely prone to arrogance. Have you ever had an issue with arrogance in your life, and were you ever checked on that?
no, because nobody listens to me anyway. So
Yeah, right.
no, I'll be honest. I'm sure there's been plenty of times when people have been like, oh, she's such a know-it-all, but I do. That's
Yeah.
the answer.
How was it
Like
being?
I can't help it if I know things.
Yeah.
So like
How?
one of the things that I'll say, like especially I'll say this to my husband. I'm like, listen, if you feel like I'm being a certain way, then do me a favor and just get me to laugh at myself. You know, like be like, just say something funny about me and get me to be like, oh yeah, you're right, and start laughing about it. And that's the easiest way to break that sort of thing with us, or at least for me,
That's weird. That's
because
like
we
the.
can.
Uh, uh,
Yeah, but we can sort of step outside ourselves for a moment. We can take another perspective and look at ourselves objectively and be like, yeah, I'm kind of being a dick right now. I should probably, not be a dick.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. It's like the third time you kind of read my mind. I was going to ask you another question. You answered before I could even ask it. I was just going to ask, like, I know ESTPs are definitely known to call people out on their own bullshit, and I was just kind of like wondering,
Mm-hmm.
like, how does that process work with you when you're kind of too out there?
Right. Well, I give him the answer, which is just get me to laugh at myself,
Yeah.
poke fun of me in a nice way to make me laugh at myself, and that'll take me out of it, to not take myself so seriously.
Do you ever have problems where you don't pick up on humor or you don't pick up on like harmless teasing? Is that ever an issue for you?
Probably text wise, I think, because it's even harder to read. You know what I mean? But if they're in front of me, like if someone's trying to make fun of me with a malicious intent, then I will absolutely know about that immediately. And I would also recommend that they don't do that. Let's see. Yeah, I think just really like texting, I think.
Okay. I know I had problems with that in the past. Like someone would be joking with me and I just like took them serious. So how does your shadow side work against you? I know that we can be really paranoid. We can be kind of critical of our own thoughts and we can even be arrogant with our own thoughts. And we can definitely not pick up on other people's feelings and we're pretty insensitive and we kind of don't like tradition and honor and like social norms and stuff like that.
I don't know about that. I might disagree with you there. I think if the tradition makes logical sense, we're in it. We're in for it. And as far as honor, I don't know. To me, chivalry is not dead. So
What tradition do you sense or would you say is makes sense to you?
logically,
Yeah,
well, I
I
mean, if something is working correctly, like a traffic light, shall we say, sure you can improve upon it, but the basic premise works, right?
I'm more talking about like a religious tradition or like holiday traditions, things that people kind of like just celebrate and they have and they just kind of accept
I
it.
mean, I celebrate holidays. I love Halloween.
Okay.
I love Christmas.
Okay. That's something that
I
I
don't.
mean not all
I don't
INTJs are totally against. It's just something that I kind of just see as silly, I guess.
Well, I mean, the logical reasoning for it is that those particular holidays, like Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate, it's realistically a time for your family to get together, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the gist of it. It's something I never really had or really cared too much about, so
Yeah, I know the feeling.
did you ever have any kids?
No.
No kids. Okay. So what is like your decision making process? We talked quite a bit about NI. How do you use like your NITE and like do you ever get stressed out or when you're younger did you go through like the NIFI loop or anything like that?
Oh, I just wanted to jump back a second to answer another part of your question that you asked, which is, which I wanted to say is that nobody is harder on me than me.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, if it kind of falls into like when I tell my husband, you know, if you need to make fun of me, like make fun of me, get me to laugh at myself. No one's going to be more critical of me than me. And that's a thing. Like, when I get in, if I do get depressed and get into a loop, that's what I'm doing. Is I'm beating myself up mentally. You could have done this better. You could have done that. This could have happened. That could have happened. Maybe if you'd done that. Maybe if you've said that. There's you can really get into that second guessing of yourself. So I would be my own harshest critic, and if something didn't work out, I would 99% of the time blame myself for not being smart enough to, you know what I mean, to work it out.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that's a big thing that people don't realize about INTJs. Everyone thinks that we're so critical and mean towards others, but it's times 10 on ourselves for sure.
Times a lot more than that. They should hear our own mental self-talk sometimes, and they'd be like, wow, you talk to yourself like that? Yep, yes I do. You bet.
When did you discover MBTI, Jungian Analytical Psychology, whatever you want to call it, and when did you find out you're an INTJ, and how did that affect you?
They gave us it at work. Actually, it was a mandated work thing. So that's how I found out what my type was. I typed as INTJ A, actually.
Oh, so they did the whole even like assertive, turbulent thing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And Enneagram. I am a 5-4-8, if that makes sense.
5-4-8.
5-4-8 and 1 were the ones that I scored the highest on, like in
okay.
the 90 some odd percentiles.
I haven't learned a lot about the Enneagram, but I did test 5, wing 6. But I definitely resonate more with being an 8. But I think 5s kind of jump to 8 when they're kind of in a more healthy sense, which probably not very healthy because it seems like more of an asshole sort of thing too. Okay. So this is like while you're firefighting, they tested you, right? I hear about people like giving like MBTI at work and stuff, but I'd never had this experience. It's kind of interesting.
No, it wasn't. The fire. I don't want to mislead you. The firefighting wasn't where I had that test. I had it with a different occupation.
And once you tested as an INTJ, do they treat you any different?
You would think so. You would think. Because that's what kind of bugged the crap out of me was, you know, I didn't know anything about it. They give the test, and I didn't even think anything about it, to be perfectly honest with you, until probably maybe about 2 years ago.
Really?
Or even actually, even, you know what, maybe even more recently than that. And I was like, huh. So a lot of my realization came in hindsight, where it was like, all right, I decided to read up on this thing and watched a couple of like YouTube videos on it, and I was like, huh, this is actually like a thing.
Yeah.
I get it. I was like, oh wow. And then I read some stuff on it. I was like, oh wow, that makes perfect sense. Like, I always thought I was just a friggin' weirdo, but apparently I'm kind of supposed to be.
Yeah, it's kind of our trade.
Like, no wonder why. I get it now.
Yeah, I heard about it 7-8 years ago myself. I took the MBTI test. I tested INTJ the first time, but I've taken various tests. I got INFJ, INTP, and I kind of read just like vague descriptions of it. Didn't really think much about it. Then about 2 or 3 years ago too, it kind of seems like I guess like a renaissance for this sort of thing. It really started making more sense. Yeah, especially when I watched C.S. Joseph. I don't know if you're familiar with him. You can say
yes, I'm familiar with him. I watched that too.
Yeah, say what you want about him. I think a lot of the information there kind of changed my life. He's, not perfect, but he definitely has a lot of good information out there, I would say.
He has some good information. I'll leave it at that. But to answer your question about if it affected like the workplace or if they treated me differently, yeah, you would think so, right? Like if a company is going to invest this amount of time and energy to type all of their employees, and if they're interested in this stuff, right? And you literally find a friggin' unicorn, and then you don't do anything with it. Like, what does that say? So, for example, I was very upfront with problem solving for the company, with managers, other people that I work with, whatever. Like they would all come to me if they had a problem. Oh, I don't know what to do, and I would most likely be able to solve that problem in about 5 minutes or less.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find though is that when we solve the problem, we've already mentally gone through like why it has to be done in a certain logistical sense. As far as, all right, well, in order for that to happen, this needs to happen. In order for that to happen, this needs to happen. All of these things need to be in place. So this is what needs to happen, and your problem is solved, right? But most people don't want to listen to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times I'm accused for being pessimistic, and really I'm just I'm troubleshooting like future circumstances that can occur. We should be aware of these and try to avoid them if possible. But people just think I'm being so pessimistic and down that people just don't want to listen to me. And I
Well,
explained,
here's the other thing is that when we ask questions, we're not asking questions as a critique. We're
mm-hmm,
asking questions for informational purposes.
right, yeah,
But people take it as a critique. Well,
yeah,
why are you asking me that? Because I need to know the answer. Like it seems common sense to us, but to everybody else, it's like, no, not so much. They think we're being critical when realistically we're just information gathering. But they interpret it as being critical. So that's on them.
yeah. Maybe it was my delivery. Like when someone had a plan, I would immediately like poke holes in that plan. I expect the same for me. If I have a plan, poke holes in it. Let's see if it floats.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the gist I was getting at. Just kind of like, like, okay, this is what can happen if we do this, and this is what can happen. This is what we should do in case this happens. And everyone's just like, oh, why are you being so negative all the time?
No, actually, you're trying to make sure the thing works.
Yeah, and if we have a problem, like, why deal with it when it comes along? Let's have a solution at hand when it happens. Is like Murphy's
Exactly,
Law.
a pre-plan.
Yeah, there should plan A through Z pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, troubleshooting and pre-planning because it's more efficient.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about,
It's
efficiency.
efficiency. If you can solve the problem before the problem occurs, that's efficiency.
For sure.
And we are not understood for that at all.
Yeah, I wish people, like you said, like, they saw that you're an INTJ and they didn't utilize you. But a lot of critiques too, like they companies what do MBTI, they do pigeonhole people into certain positions and certain tasks, and probably at least 40-50% of the time they're mistyped anyway. So I think that's why a lot of people don't like that. Like, don't put me on the spot to do that. Some people just want to go to work, and like INTJs are natural leaders, but a lot of times they don't want to lead.
Uh, yeah, I'd prefer to not lead. If I have to take control, then I absolutely will. I absolutely will step in, and I will take control over it. Uh, we're sort of like drill sergeants that way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, if we're the ones that need to run with this ball, then this is the way it's going to go, and it's going to be, you know what I mean? It's going to be fast. We're going to tell you what to do, and you're going to get it done. I'll give you sort of a for instance in how fast. Oh, and a little bit of a knee for you too. My husband and I were in a restaurant a couple of years ago, and we ordered our food and we were having a conversation. And as he was talking, I was just kind of getting this like weird kind of like vibe. So I looked at the table that was adjacent to us. It was like on an angle to us. It was these three women, and they were talking, and this one woman slumped forward and like almost fell into her food, right? So I, tapped my husband. I said, "Yo, something's going on." So we get up real quick, get over there. He sits next to her, kind of like picks her up off the table a little bit. Now, while he's doing that, like the waitress is there, her friends are there. They're trying to like, oh, she's fine, she's fine. I'm like, nope, she's not fine. I said to the waitress real fast, I'm like, I need you to go get me a cold cloth, please. She went and got it. And then in the same breath, I turned and said to my husband, I said his name and I said, airway. And he put her head back with his hand on her forehead, to open up her airway. And then it was like, all right, here's the manager. I need you to call 911, like right now. Like, and the friends are arguing. I'm like, no, this is not normal. This is not normal. People don't just pass out at their meal and fall into their food and sit there with their eyes open in a catatonic state. This is not normal. You get on the phone, 911, like just like that. You know what I mean? I feel like if I hadn't been there and my husband hadn't been there, none of that would have occurred. None of it would have occurred.
Yeah, most likely.
So eventually, like, the ambulance came, took her away, whatever. But like, it just happens that fast that we can just take in the entire scenario and just bark out orders and problem solved, right?
Yeah, that's the way it works. Just nobody wants to listen to us, and that's why we keep to ourselves. Right.
Yeah, and then they hate it when we're proven right. Well, I told you that was what the problem was. Yeah, but all right, well, have a nice day.
All right, we're coming up on an hour. I don't like to make these things too long. I know INTJs, they definitely don't like people to drag on and stuff. What is your favorite type and your least favorite type?
I don't think I have a favorite type. I will say I probably do have a least favorite type, and that would be ENTP.
Really, an ENTP? That's supposed to be our highest compatibility. Why is that?
No, they rub me the wrong way.
How so?
Depending on the person, the ones that I have met so far have that arrogant quality, but it is actual arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that they can talk themselves out of any situation. They pride themselves on being great debaters. But if you come to the debate and you haven't done your homework, don't even try it with me because I will bury you.
Yeah, I think they can do that with most types, but they can't really get away with that with INTJs because of the NI.
Well, they'll try though.
Yeah, that's like another. We're talking about CS Joseph. That's definitely an arrogant ENTP for sure.
I think what I wanted to perhaps I don't want to throw anyone under a bus or anything. It's just that sort of I think I don't like the terminology of like trying to hack someone's personality or trying to what is it, like steer them in the way that you want them to go, social engineering.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I think it's useful. It's been useful for me in certain circumstances. I definitely don't abuse it, but it can be abused for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's just.
And if you're dealing with someone that doesn't have a moral code, then that could hurt people.
That's exactly what ENTPs they lack is a moral code. They have the FI trickster there.
So that's something I tend to look out for.
All right. Just a few more questions I have. What would you like to know to like help people understand you better? What could they do to understand you better?
That just because I'm talking fast and a little louder, it doesn't mean that I'm angry. It just means I'm passionate about the thing that I'm talking about.
Okay. And what oh, go
Let's
ahead.
see. What was the other part of your question?
I was just going to ask pretty much the opposite, saying like, what would you like to know about other people to help understand them better?
I guess why they can't get a rein in on their emotions a lot of the time.
Okay.
Like if someone decides they're angry, they're just going to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very difficult to get them out of that particular emotion, which is different with I believe us, is that, again, we have that perspective shifting, so we can perspective shift out of our own ego and look at what we're doing objectively, and we can say, yeah, I'm overreacting. You know what I mean? I feel like I wish that, I guess, other types would do that as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Or
does.
maybe I'd like to understand why they're not able to.
So you're never quick to anger. I'd say INTJs with SE inferior, including myself, have a temper.
Oh no, I have a temper, absolutely.
Okay.
But there's degrees of my anger.
Yeah, kind of seems like we feel anger, and that's the only thing that we have like outwardly expressed at times. It seems like
Mostly it's irritation. There's a difference between being irritated and being angry. I get irritated a lot more than I get angry.
yeah,
Like if I'm irritated, I'll jabber a bit, like I'm still talking if I'm irritated. But if I'm angry, like really angry,
mm-hmm.
and I'm quiet, no, you might want to run.
Yeah, like that's a good point. When I truly get like pissed off, I'm just quiet, and people
Like
just
if I'm quiet and angry, and that's about probably eventually when you're going to get that death glare.
yeah,
And that's not what you want. You don't want that.
The look that can melt stone, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's about all that I have. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything else you'd like to share before we go?
Not really. I just hope you enjoyed the conversation.
I did. I think it was a great podcast, and I do thank you for coming on, and I hope you get to come back soon sometime.
Sure. Just let me know next time. I'll bring the tarot cards for you.
Yeah, we were going to do a tarot reading online, but the circumstances at our house is kind of not feasible at the moment. So I think it's definitely woo-woo-y, but it's a definitely good way to train your intuition to make it a little stronger.
Definitely. I agree.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. I'll definitely put the links to my website, www.intjequation.com. Also, our Discord server. If you definitely want a stimulating random conversation, that's a good place to go. We kind of talk about all sorts of different things there.
And I do bring memes.
Yes, she does have some memes, so be prepared. All right. Well, I thank you guys for going beyond the clickbait. Stay tuned for more projects coming out, and have a good day.